My doctor told me I had ringworm. She was wrong. Before that, decades before that, a dermatologist told me I just had sensitive skin, gave me a list of soaps to try. I spent my allowance money on every single one of them. He was wrong too. They got my diagnosis wrong. Twice, and for years, I lived with an itch that nobody could properly explain. Products that didn't help, and skin I was too embarrassed to show anyone. Today, I'm telling you the full story. My family's eczema story, the real one. Because this is why Violet Botanical exists. And if you have eczema or someone you love does, I want you to know that the person behind this brand has walked this path too. Hey everybody, this is Robin from Violet Botanical Skincare and welcome back. My skin has been reactive for as long as I can remember. Certain fabrics, commercial soaps, harsh products, anything with a long ingredient list. My skin protested all of it. In high school, I finally saw a dermatologist about it. He looked at my skin and said, "You have sensitive skin." His recommendation? Dove soap or Physoderm. That was it. No further investigation, no deeper answer, just try these soaps. I spent my allowance money. The soaps didn't help. I still itched, and I did what teenagers do when a doctor doesn't give them real answers. I moved on, and I just lived with it. Reactive skin became my normal. I thought that was just who I was. Years later, something appeared on my wrist and elbow. Red, irritated, and itching in a way I couldn't ignore. I went to my primary care doctor. She looked at it and asked, "Have you been in a sauna or a hot tub?" Because we just came back from Vegas. And she said, ringworm. Now, back in my day, ringworm had a stigma. It was associated with being unclean. So to top off the itch, I was embarrassed. I was prescribed a medication for ringworm and sent home. The itch didn't stop. It got worse. And I scratched. I scratched during the day. I scratched at night. I tried wearing socks on my hands to stop myself. That didn't work. So I cut the foot out of a sock and put the tube part over my arm like a sleeve. That didn't work either. Between the scratching and using the completely wrong treatment, my skin got infected. Weeks later, I finally went back to my doctor. She looked at my arm and said, "It looks angry. Why didn't you come in sooner?" She referred me to a dermatologist, stat. And sitting in that office, I finally got the real answer. Eczema, not ringworm. Eczema! Ugh! I exhaled because at least it wasn't the thing people whispered about. And at least it had a name I could research and understand. But then the dermatologist handed me a prescription for a topical steroid cream. And the pharmacist explained very carefully that I need to cycle it. Use it, stop, use it again to avoid something called topical steroid withdrawal. I was not happy. The idea of cycling a medication indefinitely with the risk that stopping it wrong could make things worse than when I started, that didn't sit right with me. And then the pharmacist said something almost as an aside that changed everything for me. He mentioned that he hadn't found relief for his own children's eczema until he explored traditional Chinese medicine. I heard that and thought, if plants could help his family, what could plants do for mine? Around this time, my husband was diagnosed with eczema. His presented on his lower legs. And when he came home from the dermatologist, he had a 1-pound tub of corticosteroid ointment. I looked at that tub. I looked at the potential side effects listed on the label: burning, itching, irritation, dry skin, skin thinning. The side effects of the medication prescribed to relieve itching, redness, and inflammation included itching, irritation, and dry skin. Hear that again. That didn't sit well with me. Not even a little. So I did what I always do. I started researching because I am a research nerd. I started looking into plant-based approaches, African botanicals, the science behind what actually supports the skin barrier. And what I found started changing things for my family. Then our son was diagnosed with eczema. He was a baby. His eczema appeared on his cheeks, those rosy, inflamed patches that I noticed the way only a new mother notices things, immediately, with my whole heart. I want to be honest about how I felt. I thought I had done something wrong. I was a new mother, terrified and in love in equal measure, and seeing my baby's face inflamed made me feel like I had failed him. When we were out in public, I worried about what people would think of me as his mother. I felt judged before anyone said a word. And if you're a parent watching this and your child has eczema, I want you to hear this. You did not cause this. Eczema involves genetics, immune response, and environmental triggers. It is not your fault. Our pediatrician recommended eliminating dairy, one of the most well-documented triggers for eczema in children. We did it as a family, no half measures. If our son couldn't have dairy, neither would we. The hardest part for me, personally, cheese and ice cream. But nut milks were becoming more available and honestly getting really good. And we never looked back. My son still gets mild flares in the summer heat, but he manages without prescription drugs. That means everything to me. Now, years later, after my husband's diagnosis, after my son's diagnosis, eczema found me again on my wrist and elbow. I didn't understand what it was because I was never properly diagnosed with eczema. What I realized is we were in an incredibly difficult housing situation. Our landlord made our lives generally hard in ways that ground on us day after day, month after month. The kind of chronic, relentless stress that doesn't let you breathe. And research actually confirms what I was living through. Chronic psychological stress impairs your skin's barrier function and triggers an immune response that causes eczema to flare. It's not in your head, it's in your skin. There's a documented biological cycle. Stress weakens the barrier. The barrier dysfunction worsens inflammation. The inflammation causes more stress, which triggers more flares. I stood in store checkout lines in 90-degree weather, wearing long sleeves, not because I was cold, because I didn't want anyone to look at my arm. I had sundresses in my closet I didn't wear that summer. I showed up overdressed everywhere and pretended I was fine. If you've done this, I see you. That embarrassment is real. The hiding is real. We took our landlord to court. We won. We bought a home. We put that chapter way behind us. And slowly, as the chronic stress lifted, as I finally had a home that felt like safety, my skin started improving. I have been in remission for 8 years. When I feel that familiar stress itch starting, and I do still feel it sometimes, because stress doesn't disappear from life. It just changes shape. I recognize it now. I calm myself. I interrupt the cycle before it becomes a full flare. It's not magic. It's awareness built over years of paying attention to my own skin. Through all of this, my husband's diagnosis, my son's diagnosis, my own, I kept going deeper into research on plant-based approaches to eczema relief. I was channeling the spirit of my maternal grandmother. Her generation reached for plants before prescriptions, not because they were naive, but because plants were their medicine. That was their medicine cabinet. I found that African botanicals, many of them already embedded in traditions that understood skin long before modern dermatology existed, had real documented benefits for dry, inflamed skin. Peer-reviewed research confirmed what generations of women already knew. Products like shea butter, sunflower oil, jojoba oil, they were naturally anti-inflammatory and protected the skin barrier. The science is just catching up with the wisdom. I started to blending at home, formulating for my family, and things improved. And that work, from necessity, research, just deep refusal to use corticosteroids, and to believe that that was the only answer, that's how Violet Botanical Skincare was born. And I want to be clear about something before I go. I am not a dermatologist. I am not, telling you to stop your medication or ignore your doctor. What worked for my family may not be what works for yours. Eczema is complex. It presents differently in every person. What I am is a formulator and an herbalist who has walked this path as a teenager who spent her allowance money on soap that didn't help, as a patient who went years without a real diagnosis, as a caregiver for a husband and a son, and as a woman who stood in a checkout line in August in long sleeves because she wasn't ready for anyone to see her skin. I felt the itch at 2 a.m. I felt the embarrassment. I felt the helplessness of watching someone you love flare and not knowing what to do. And I felt what it's like to finally find something that helps. If you've been searching for someone who actually gets it, you've found her. The full story is on the blog. The link is in the description. And if this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you're new. And I will see you next Sunday.